Day 2 of the 28 Days of Christmas Marathon continues throughout all of this month and next week and any way you think it. So, we continue with 2 specials and 1 that's requested. I probably also should have mentioned yesterday that if you want a name pronounced a certain way, that I should have thought ahead and probably told you beforehand. Instead of trying to butcher the name, I might just show the comment up on screen of just what you requested. Just to make things a whole lot easier, not only for me, but also for the person who might have requested. So I just don't butcher the name. It makes it a whole lot easier, especially for me and everyone else watching. So, with that said, let's get started with our first special, Santa vs. the Snowman. This is an IMAX 3D animated short made by O Animations, the same people that created the Adventures of Jimmy Neutron, but also, surprisingly enough, the Fum short films. If you don't know what those are, that's Fumtanic, Bat Fum, and Fum Wars. And surprisingly enough, the Blair Fum. Which, if you don't know what those are, find them. You can probably easily find them up on YouTube or Google it, so they're pretty easy to find. But Santa vs. the Snowman is one of the IMAX 3D films that came out sometime around, I would say, 1999, 2000 or something like that. It's been a long while since I've ever seen the thing whenever it came out in IMAX. But it's a pretty long time for this. But the one thing I'm lucky for is that the thing's been released on home video. But sadly, the thing's not in 3D. So that's kind of a disappointment. But it's got a big cast in it. Ben Stein, Jonathan Winters, and oddly enough, D. Bradley Baker. Which, if you don't know who he is, especially in this day and age, he's the guy who basically, you ever watch trailers, he's known as the Inner World guy. And that's what you already know him for, is the Inner World guy. You can easily find him on Google, or just search his trailers up online. But of course, one of the guys who was probably inspired by him, I think, is John Bailey, otherwise known as Epic Voice Guy. So, with that in mind, the story with Santa vs. the Snowman is, essentially, it goes along the lines of this. Santa is basically, the snowman winds up having his flute broken and goes into the North Pole where Santa is and all of his elves are working and tries to find a new flute that he can have. But unfortunately, the elves won't allow him to have it, especially so early before Christmas. And of course, he tries to diverse a plan to try to become Santa Claus. One of them hatching to try to break into the place, but doesn't go over very well, and almost launching an Empire Strikes Back idea, where they have a big all-out battle between the both of them, that it causes almost the entire destruction of both the sides. It's insane, it's silly, but you take it in a silly sense, it's actually kind of phenomenal that they've created something along the lines of this. It's surprising, really. But of course, when everything goes to plan, especially on the snowman side, he winds up taking Santa's sleigh and all the toys and whatnot, and of course, winds up going to attempt to be Santa Claus. But of course, it doesn't go over very well. And of course, that's when Santa comes in, breaks out, and of course tells him why he's not supposed to be Santa Claus and why it's his job only to be Santa Claus. And of course, that's when the real kicker comes in. So, in a twist of everything, the real thing that happens is, as soon as Santa gets the snowman out, he gives him his flute that he's been waiting for a whole week and has been trying to get. And of course, since then, Santa and the snowman have been best of friends ever since. It's been a long while since I've seen this, and the last I recall that my parents ever told me this is that this was one that I really didn't like as a young kid, and I've never watched ever since. Mostly because they don't bring this out in IMAX anymore, nor have they released this in Blu-ray 3D or anything like that. So, that seems disappointing. But, anywho, this is probably one of the more interesting of the shorts, because if you thought Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius wasn't too stretchy enough, then this right here is the answer for you, Santa vs. a Snowman. If you want a stretchy version of Jimmy Neutron, except it takes place in the North Pole with a snowman fighting Santa Claus in almost a, like, Empire Strikes Back type of deal, then this could be the type of special for you. But, of course, I don't know how your reactions will be if you ever get a chance to see it. Now, of course, there are two more specials to this, the other one being a request. But I won't say who the name is but of course I won't say who the name is afterwards. But, I will get to mentioning that said request as soon as I get done with our next special, Christopher and Holly. So with that in mind, keep it right here as I get to reviewing Christopher and Holly. Next on our list, we have Christopher and Holly. Now, this one I'm not too familiar with, especially since I could barely see any information on this special, except for the fact that this thing, if I'm guessing correctly, is up on YouTube. And the fact that when I Googled the thing, all I could find much is that I can find are like an Amazon listing for it and also a sequel to it, but also apparently, but it also has a secondary special called Christopher and Holly, The Bears Who Saved Christmas, which I can't tell if that's the exact same special or just an entirely different special overall, very different from this one entirely. But anywho, let's dive into this. Christopher and Holly features the voices of that of Charles Adler, who you might be familiar with stuff from like Mr. Bighead from Rocko's Modern Life and Buster Bunny from Tiny Toons Adventures, to let's see. Oh yeah, he also did the Hamburglar from the Wacky Adventures of Ronald McDonald. But it also has Jonathan Winters in this as Compass. So, this is probably the second one in today's episode that I talk about Jonathan Winters being in another episode. So in this, we see that a family of four are trying to go to their grandmother's place, but unfortunately a snowstorm causes their car to break down, or at least bury their car, as of course they have to stay in a cabin overnight. Or at least stay in the cabin for who knows how long. As they stay in that cabin, the bears wake up and realize they have to do something for the family. And as of course their adventure starts to begin, they wind up coming across a couple of scenarios. One of them being the fact that they have to come across a magical bear named... that they wind up coming across a flashlight who fears the dark, and fears of his batteries being drained, and of course a magical compass, and of course a compass played by Jonathan Winters, who doesn't recall his sense of directions. And in this, they have to go and find the tree while avoiding the bear that is sleeping, known as Black Bart. Sounds a very weird name. But, of course, as their adventures goes along the way, they meet up with some friends, well, such as a beaver, of all things. Which is kind of interesting that they would meet a beaver throughout this whole adventure. But I'm not one to judge. They meet a beaver, they talk to him, have fun with him, he helps them along the way, cuts down the tree, all this good stuff. And of course, the bear wakes up, they almost seem like they're in peril, but thankfully, the bears help them out, and they show him that he almost could have been caught in the bear trap seen earlier, as of course, they wind up finding themselves having the bear help them out with their little adventure. And of course, in the end, the family celebrates Christmas with the bears. And that's clearly all that there is with the special. It's nothing too big, but again, it's nothing too small for this. It's a little simple special that I think you can put on during the holiday season. I mean, you could probably look this up on Amazon and, even for that matter, YouTube, and just have it on throughout the holiday season. But then again, there are a couple of things I have to nitpick over. But then again, I can't figure out what those nitpicks are, so let's move on. Okay, so like I said earlier on, there were or at least one requested thing on this list. And I wasn't lying when I said that. There is somebody on yesterday's video that commented today, by the time this video is coming out, that requested a movie to be on this marathon today. So, with that in mind, I'm going to take a look at a movie today, Annabelle's Wish, requested by this user. Put it up on screen, Cambot. Most definitely, yes. So, with that in mind, if you'll hold on a second, I shall see it, then I shall talk about it as the final episode, as the final special for today. And last but not least, we finally get to our request of the day. And that request goes to our friendly user, which I've already listed in the few seconds ago. So, with that in mind, let's talk about Annabelle's Wish. Now, this is a 1997 special, which I can't really find the resources on. From what I knew, at least when I first knew it in high school, this was a holiday Christmas special that came out on home video, and it featured the voice of Ernest and either Phil or Lil from Rugrats, and that was about it. I didn't know anything else about the movie except that. And I really can't search anything else about the movie because, well, to a factor, apologies for that, to a factor, this is so hard to come by, at least on home video, especially here in the US, and the only latest edition is that in the UK, because, I mean, they've got it on DVD in 2012, 2014, I forget when the release dates are, but this is so hard to come by that not even the rights holders own it now. And I don't think you can even see it on TV, for that matter. So, in any case, this is another one of those rare and hard to come by specials that only comes on once in a lifetime, and then you gotta search for the film for yourself, and hopefully try to own it for your library. So, with that in mind, let's get to the request. So, In this story, we have a kid named Billy who obviously cannot speak because of an incident that happened with a bonfire. And because of that, he cannot speak for himself. Not even in sign language. So, with that in mind, there's also a calf named Annabelle who is born on Christmas Eve. And they wind up sharing some of the same factors that Billy does. And of course, the both of them wind up becoming the best of friends. And during all of this, there is some story between both both of them, at least his father and his, I don't know, his aunt or something, I forget what. But his aunt wants to try and adopt Billy so that she can move Billy into the city and try to give him the help that he deserves. Or try to make his life miserable. I forget which is worse. But in other times, there is two younger kids who is the father of Ernest P. Worrell. Yeah, I would say Jim Varney, but honestly, the Ernest jokes come too easily, so I'm not going to do that. But Ernest's kids basically wind up picking on him because obviously he cannot speak because of the bonfire. And of course they wind up trying to get him into trouble, but thankfully his friend, helps him stand up and try to defend him against the two kids. And of course throughout the years, or at least throughout the months, I should say, this is one of those Christmas and a half specials, I guess, we see that Billy is basically friends with Annabelle throughout all the months as they wait for Christmas to come by, and of course for Billy to be getting Annabelle to be, of course, one of Santa's reindeer. Now, this, I would say, for what I would think is a TV movie, it's not that badly animated. There are some animation errors with it, but it's not that bad of a TV special. Far from it. I mean, the one thing I wish is just there is some recognition with it. I mean, far enough, this is a really good special about, well, even the back of the box says, it's the magical story of unselfish giving and true friendship. I mean, who could blame me? This is a Hallmark video for all I know. But, in all honesty, this is probably one of the few best Hallmark products there is. At least it has nothing to do with love, like all of the Hallmark or Freeform movies that keep coming out every year. But of course, I could nitpick a lot of things with this. But I will say the animation's decent, the acting is quite interesting to say the least, though the redemption between the Anne and Jim Varney's character is a bit odd, though Jim Varney, I will be honest, after the sheriff comes in and tells him the sacrifice that he has to make to bring Annabelle back to the barn, that definitely did change his heart for the better. Though I wish we could have seen a perspective of that. But we get what we get in this 54-minute special. So, in all honesty, Annabelle's Wish, it is interesting. I would love to see if this will get a newer DVD release, at least here in the US, because for all I know, the UK has somewhat of a better DVD release than we do. But I just want to hear what you guys thought of the specials down below, because most of them can easily be found on YouTube. That is, unless the appetizer-friendly police hasn't come and take them down. But if you have seen them, tell me what your thoughts are down below. And to the person that requested the special, yeah, that is her name. Thank you for that friendly, lovely request of Annabelle's Wish. It's actually been quite a while since I've actually seen this one, because I've accidentally forgot to take a look at it last year during last year's 28 Days of Christmas Marathon, which you can see that down below, or I would say in the card. But with that in mind, just go ahead and look this up on Google or YouTube. I'm pretty sure you'll find it somewhere. And I hope you can enjoy some more Christmas specials. And of course, if you want to see yourself in more holiday specials, you are free to request more of them. But keep in mind, you are limited on it. I will not cap them, however, but I will have some certain limit on them. Just make sure it's something I'm able to get. Okay? Okay. So, with that in mind, I hope to see you guys tomorrow for the next 28 Days of Christmas Marathon. And let's hope I have something good in store next. So, see ya.